In this day and age, we're hearing a lot of talk about women, women's power, women's movements. So we ask ourselves, what is exactly the role of women in this age? Why? Now, we've had a lot of talk for the last 100 years about women's rights, women in politics. We've come a long way, and we're still asking for more. Now, why is this? What is really happening underneath all this? Now, for the first time in our history, there are two phenomena which are very, very important. Foremost is women's education. So we're thinking, we're expressing, we're in many respects occupying exactly the same jobs as men. And also our technology has extended wide and far. We tend to think that this is something that we do, that humanity does. It is our achievement, in a way. Well, it isn't just that. Humanity, the whole planet, is being moved by forces which are much, much stronger, which are more powerful, and which shine upon and impregnate the earth and everything within it. And we, as humanity, are the cells of this earth. So we're responding to what might be called cosmic forces, or certainly forces which are coming down upon the planet as solar rays or more subtle influences. And these forces tend to come in cycles. And in our modern age, we ignore what these cycles are. We don't have a culture that centers around it. Our culture is basically very scientific, very rational, and much of what the ancients knew and observed in multidimensional aspects has been lost to us, or at least up to now. This is all coming to the forefront. It has started with the end of the last century, at the end of the 1800s, at the end of the 19th and 20th century. And now in our 21st century, it's just going, not quite full bloom yet, but it's certainly intensifying. The change that we are experiencing now, the transition that we're experiencing now, has a lot to do with two great cycles, which I have seen as 5,000-year cycles. Now, the last one, the one that we are currently still in, very much so, even though at the tail end, is what I will term the male frequency, or the masculine ray. This ray started around the time of the building of Stonehenge. And during that time, humanity went through a big push, a big impulse for constructing, for conquering, for building, for creating systems and putting order. And this is what we have been seeing, and these are all the positive, because all of these influences are always positive, that we have seen as the building of our time, as the building and the knowledge of science, of precision of law and order and certain principles. Now, this is not the first time, obviously, that this cycle comes into effect. There have been other male cycles, and there have been other female cycles. Now, the next female cycle should be full bloom on 2500 AD. And we still have 400 years for this, and that is very little. We're feeling the effects now because everything is changing. And when it changes at the core, which is basically, if we understand this, what we can understand about the feminine movement. What is really being asked for? Now, we have begun with superficial changes, perhaps not so superficial as far as society is concerned, but our role, our participation, our expression as women upon the planet, our say. And this has been started during the political movement, the voting rights. And now it has moved into the corporate world, into the political arena as leadership. And there's much, much more, because the changes which are being demanded and which will occur very gently but steadily, which doesn't appear so gentle to the status quo, is an inner change. So what is the difference between the male ray and the female ray that is descending already, beginning to be felt slightly? And the changes are that one impulses us towards construction, towards activity, and the other towards the inner aspect, the feeling or sentiment level. Now, this is not to say that men don't have feeling or that the masculine ray doesn't have any sentiment. What it means to say is that the feminine ray is much more concerned with a collective, with a sensory perception. And here I'd like to make a distinction which is very important. When we talk about abstract thinking, about higher mind, it is something which up to now has been seen as a phenomenon led by, pioneered certainly by men. But the female higher mind, or let's say the aspect that she contributes to higher mind, because in a sense higher mind is of the soul, it's of a higher dimensional aspect in which men and women both partake of. But the mind that woman brings into this has feeling. Her whole entire meaning of life, her experience, is very chaotic. It is not the linear impulse that man feels as a living experience within himself, the direction in which he moves, and the direction in which our society, as a result of this male impulse, takes us to. So woman is concentric, she is chaotic, she is feeling, she is always working from a space that is hollow, and rather than being empty, it is full, but there is so much there. We're constantly attracting and receiving rays, energies, forces, impressions. Again, this is not to say that men aren't, but we do so in a different way. And our way is very emotional or sentiment-based. And I will simply give this analogy. When we think of, in terms of abstraction, we own it, we feel it, we embody it. It is almost as if our whole experience of being in the flesh serves us to understand what an abstract concept would be. We dress ourselves in it, and this comes as a result of our own experience of being female, of having a womb, of having an opening, of our bodies being built in a proportionately opposite, let's say, polarity than men. Because our bodies are physical, let's say they're negative polarity, our emotional will be positive, our mental will again be negative. And this negativity is highly absorbent. So we absorb at the physical level, and we also absorb at the mental level, as well as our higher center. So this brings a peculiar contribution when we do reach this place that I'm calling higher mind, when we do reach this level at the heart where we awaken to something which is beyond ourselves, both man and woman. Now, the feeling quality that woman brings is precisely what we are yearning for in our time. And here's the tension, because the transition from the precise, the scientific, the accurate, the rational, the linear, power, the modus operandi of competition is all being questioned. It's all kind of falling out of style, if we could say so. And instead, we're heading towards a globality which also men are feeling, which is the collective over the individual, which is the feeling of the whole. And we always speak in terms of feeling. Well, I feel this instead of I think that, even though we're both using the mind. So there's a big tension, there's a big stress upon our era today, and that is losing control from the precise and moving into a perception and a mastery of that which is more subtle, and we're both feeling it. But the quality that takes us there, the impulse that takes us there, is already what we're feeling as a feminine ray. It's already what we're feeling as feeling rather than an abstraction of thought. And this is a quality that women are bringing. These are the qualities that women are yearning for and that the man requires and needs also very much in order to go further. So this is where we find ourselves today, in a very tense, competitive modality where in fact what we're all yearning for is this vision of something multidimensional, of something more open, more expansive, more embracing rather than reaching. The female modality is to expand and open and contain, whereas the male modality would be to reach and to pierce and create an opening. We're both going towards the same place, but there's a switch in roles, and many men are feeling it as a loss of power. Many women are feeling it as a tremendous drive inside, which will make them appear at times very masculine or aggressive, even though I don't believe that women can be masculine or men can be feminine. We have yin and yang sides to us, and each of our modalities expresses themselves in a wholly different way, even though they're parallel paths, which seem to overlap at times with the support that we give one another. Now we have the descent of this very feminine ray that is beginning to be felt. I perceived it to be a magenta color with gold, but it can be any color, because this color, once it reaches us, will spark off different nuances of our own spirit in incarnation.